Hello, it's noon on Wednesday, the 6th of September 2023. I'm Jessie Chahal, coming to you live from Wisma Bernama right here in Kuala Lumpur. You're watching The Brief on Bernama TV. On today's show, we're doing it a little special. There's a bit of a twist as we bring in our featured guests. First, in the studio with me is Heyang, the program host of CGTN's Roundtable. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Malaysia, Heyang. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great being in Malaysia, although it's only been a couple of days, but there's so much to see and there's so much to share with you, and I'm really happy to be here, Jessie.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about media's role in between both countries, Malaysia and China, and besides trade and bilateral relations in that aspect, media also plays a role to shape perspectives and public opinion. And when we particularly zoom into Malaysia and China, there's been a rich history, a background, even a cultural heritage, if you will, or exchange. And of course, China is Malaysia's foremost trading partner as well. You're currently here in Malaysia for something called the Radio Days exhibition. Tell us a little bit more about that and what significance does it bring to media gatherings such as this?
Yes, I am invited here to take part in the Radio Days Asia event. It's one of the biggest audio and radio industry industrial conference as such, and it's great to meet up with hundreds of media outlets of people, as well as radio professionals, podcasters, those in the profession, to discuss, what's going on in your country with this segment of media and also the industry.
With the lens of the media. You presented something at this gathering as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes. Okay, so I was there to discuss and talk about generative AI's role and usage in today's Chinese media landscape. And I was a little unsure how it was going to be received by everybody because there's so much talk about AI, and I was like, after quite a lot of talk about it, would they be bored with it already? But to my pleasure, everybody seemed really interested in how it's being used in the media, as well as how it's being used in China.
That's right. So tell us in a snapshot, very quickly, in a nutshell, some salient points from your presentation.
Yes. Okay, so I think it can be shared that AI can be seen as a little bit of a terror or tool that we can use, and in the media sphere, so far it seems like it can be a very useful tool, but
there's a but.
There's always a but, and we've used it in digital anchors.
Yes, replacing people like you and I.
And so far, we are safe with our jobs, but what about the future? And I think that's also an interesting point to discuss.
They say radio is dead, TV is dead, and there's all sorts of,
also TV
conversation about that. But in today's fast-paced media landscape, how do you keep updated or stay abreast with evolving news trends, and of course the fast pace of information at which it spreads? All to also come back to the fact of how do you engage your audience effectively?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it's really important to stay on trend and be highly aware of what's going on in your industry, as well as in the general landscape of things. And that involves, keeping on watch and what's new, what's happening, and then and find our survival ways. And I think through podcasting, that's how radio has found new life. And but we're still in the midst of a tsunami of changes, so I think all we can do is try our best to stay on top of things. And the rest, well, we got to just roll with the punches, just like everybody else.
That's right. You say that you're pretty much centered or rooted in the role of being a radio presenter with your show as well. How do you incorporate AI into that daily task and research and preparation as well? Are there specific tools tools or techniques even that you employ?
All right. Well, we've tried inviting generative AI onto the show, but that didn't go too well. It was too robotic. And I guess so far it's just really good to use. There's so many large language models out there of tools that you can use. And for us in China, then we look to use some of the Chinese versions, like our country has companies such as Baidu, Alibaba as such, and they all have their own version of LLMs, and so we employ these for research mainly, and sometimes just to get some extra talking points maybe, but still the humans need to do our own research.
You need the human touch, and perhaps at this point, perhaps in the future, it would be a little bit more enhanced, but for now you still need that human touch to really craft that messaging. But how was it received though? Even then when you used AI, how was it received by your audience?
Well, I think it's good that they didn't know. The thing is, we've had AI to read out listener comments, and because we get a bunch of them, and it's good to sort of acknowledge your audience's presence that way. But that's pretty much it. And I think people still really enjoy to have real people share real emotions and that authenticity, which robots simply don't have.
Heyang, in the recent past, we've seen a lot of exchange between Malaysia and China as well. Being someone who works in the media industry, what are some key areas of cooperation between Malaysia and China that you have noticed that you think it has provided mature advantages or benefits?
Well, I think in our media industry, which is very specific, I suppose, it's about telling stories and telling people what's been going on. And sometimes I think the general public needs a little bit of this highlight, a directive attention of ours. So what I really like to do is to show that not only do we have the infrastructure, bilateral ties, all the big investments of cooperation as such, but also human-to-human exchange, and also a good jumping off point that I feel like most Chinese people can really resonate with is durians. I think Malaysian durians have really cultivated a cult of following in China, and it used to be seen as very much of a luxury fruit, but now I think because of all this trade going on between the two countries, and it's become a little bit more affordable. Certainly there's a lot more you can buy in the market, and that honking thorny beast of fruit can become, just one of the examples how our communication, our cooperation and connection can be established just like that.
Absolutely, and of course with the influx or surge of information through not just platforms like OTT and music and all of that, social media as well, bringing in that aspect of there's so much that needs to be shared, and finding that common ground between both countries who've also already had long-standing history together. But how do you see Malaysia and China moving forward in terms of fostering a better relationship and also educational exchanges, because we're seeing that as well?
Yes. Oh, this is such a great aspect to talk about. And what better can you understand a country than going to study there? Because you get to see places, you get to interact with local people, and I think this is something that people from both countries would really benefit from, especially young people. And also, geographically, we're quite near each other, and then just coming to each other's educational institutions to receive degrees, education, as well as to learn from each other. And this is something a lot of people would be very much interested in.
This is your first time here in Malaysia. And you said something really interesting when we were off air earlier. We see you on a horse here in some clip there. But anyway, you said upon arrival you were really welcomed and quite intrigued by the fact that there was many ethnicities, stories, the language. You said it was very colorful.
Yes. Oh, it goes beyond quite intrigued. I was overwhelmed with joy, and also, coming out of COVID and everything, it was just such a great feeling of being welcomed by so many cultures, such diverse ethnicity, and also language, religion, and all the bunch exists in chaotic harmony here. And it is just the best example of what humanity is about. And it is so refreshing to be thrown into an environment and atmosphere like that. And also I feel like, because I obviously have the awareness that when you go to a foreign country, you should be respective of the local culture, especially if you don't know that much about it. And I'm just like a new baby, like trying to absorb all of this stuff. And I just feel, even if I get it a little bit wrong, but because I come with goodwill, and the kind and friendly people of Malaysia would forgive me, and we can have a dance, a chat, and embrace each other.
Absolutely, and bond over durian.
Yes, yes.
Which is in season. But yes, you were here at, of course, at the office here. Coming from CGTN, what do you hope that Bernama and Bernama TV can offer in terms of this, partnership or exchange?
Yeah, well, I think it's always learning from each other, and I've been so impressed by how professional everybody is here, so efficient, and I think in terms of content, there's a lot that we can share, and in terms of maybe doing more shows or expanding our influence in each other's countries, I think that would all be good. And just sitting in the studio and have this face-to-face contact with you, I think this is a really good starting point.
That's right. We talked about, sharing stories and sharing experiences. As we look towards the future, Heyang, what are some potential opportunities that you feel Malaysia and China can really take advantage of in terms of people-to-people exchanges? And, what do you hope to see in the short term?
Wow, there's just too much I want to talk about. Certainly, I think meeting people, this is a really good way, and staying connected. And also just, I don't know if this is really people to people, but going to the shops and seeing that Alipay, WeChat, and UnionPay, these digital payment platforms are available here. And I think this is, I need to tell every Chinese person, come to Malaysia, come and have some fun.
We're sending you back as our ambassador. I'm sure you'll go back and spread the good word, and of course, play your role, and of course me as well, in our, place to promote more information exchange and more stories and more sharing between both countries. Heyang, thank you very much for being here. That was Heyang, the host of CGTN's The Roundtable program. I'm sure you can get it online as well at some point. All right, we'll take a quick breather. When we come back, more happening right here on The Brief. Stay with me.